All right, let's go ahead and get started. So first off, thank you so much for helping me out for volunteering. I really appreciate it. I know that the paperwork I sent over is really long and there's a lot of information that goes in there, but I really appreciate you helping me out as part of this part of my school process. Going to just kind of open up the session, go over some things that we'll talk about during it, and then we'll go through the form that you sent over kind of piece by piece and get a little bit more information. So just to start out, big piece, confidentiality reminder. Everything that you say to me is confidential. Everything that you share here is confidential. I will share this video with a few students who will kind of critique me, but they're here to critique me. They're not going to critique you. They're not going to make any judgments on anything that you have to say. Everything is going to be basically my critiques. Anything that you say, anything that you provided to me as far as written paper, all of that is confidential. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Okay.
Second thing, kind of a little bit about me and what we're doing and how I kind of like to approach nutrition. So what we're doing here and kind of what we're, the reason for these sessions is it's the last piece or one of the last pieces of my nutrition masters. So I've kind of gone through all of the in-class pieces, all of the schooling, if you will, and this is the part where I get to kind of put that into practice. So take everything that I learned and really kind of practice and get the experience, the hands-on experience with clients. So this is a really big part of what we do and making us practitioners for the future, which is wonderful. So again, thank you, because this is a big piece of our classroom experience. As far as what I hope to do once I graduate, when I start my own practice, I really like to focus on nutrition as an individual piece per person, looking at what each client needs and what each client kind of wants as far as their goals, and then tailoring their nutrition practice and their nutrition recommendations to them. As I am a student right now, what I can provide you with as we go through kind of pieces and talk about your forms and everything is educational information. I'm not able to provide you with any direct recommendations as far as what to eat, how much to eat, when to eat, but what we can do is talk about kind of the benefits of fruits and vegetables, getting the right macronutrients and micronutrients, kind of where some of your deficiencies may lie and what those deficiencies mean kind of as an overarching picture. Once we're done, I'm going to take all of this information and share it with one of my professors. We're going to sit down and go through the case, and they'll see if kind of the recommendations I would make as a clinician would be the same as the recommendations that they would make, and maybe where some of my things that maybe I missed or what I might be able to do a little bit better. So once I have kind of that piece, I'm more than happy to share some of that kind of educational material with you so that you can kind of go over it and maybe take it on to the next step if you were interested in working with a nutritionist. So any questions you have about that educational material, you're more than welcome to ask me kind of once I send it over. So do you have any questions with me kind of for me as far as what we're going to be doing, kind of what my role is, all that kind of good stuff?
No.
Okay.
Excited to get going.
Awesome. Okay, so when I kind of put out there that I was looking for volunteers to help out and kind of people who might be interested in getting a little bit more information, why'd you raise your hand? Why'd you say, this is something that I want to do, this is something that I think would be interesting?
Looking for more help, like some help with some body composition, maybe some in digestive health.
Okay. So when you say body composition, kind of starting there, what do you mean? What are your, where are you now? Where are you trying to be?
For right now, I'm trying to, I guess, lean out.
Okay.
And maybe not build, but maintain muscle mass.
Okay. Do you work out often?
Yeah, probably about 5 to 6 days a week.
Okay, awesome. I saw that on your form, so we'll kind of get further into that down the road too. I guess the other piece of that too would be digestive health. When you say digestive health, what do you mean? What do you kind of, again, where are you now? Where would you like to be?
I'm just trying to figure out what does and does not cause digestive distress.
Okay.
Had some balancing digestive issues and don't really know what is the cause.
Okay. Have you done anything that you think either has worked or hasn't worked?
I've tried to cut out most lactose and dairy, and it seems to help.
Okay.
But there's still other stuff. I just don't know what they are.
Okay, great. Well, like I said, we can talk a little bit more about that later too, but it's kind of nice for me to know where you're starting, where your head's at, and kind of what you've done already, and why working with a nutritionist is something that's interesting to you, kind of why you came to me. So I kind of read through some of your goals, and like we said, the digestive health piece and the body composition. So let's kind of start with your questionnaire and move through there. Okay, so starting at the top, you said right now you are in engineering, but that you just recently left your job. What's your kind of next step? Do you have a plan from here, or are you pursuing something different?
Yeah, pursuing them, never going back to school.
Okay, great. What do you plan on going back to school for?
Nursing.
Nursing. Great. Awesome. So it looks like kind of a little bit of a lifestyle change there. Interest in all of those kind of things. You mentioned that you enjoy working out, and that body composition and digestive health are really kind of those two big pieces for you. Moving through kind of starting at your medical history, looks like right now no current real health concerns outside of the digestive discomfort?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Correct.
Have you seen a doctor for that, or?
Not a specialist. I've talked to a GP.
Okay.
No real recommendations.
No real. Okay, great. Okay, and then as a child, did you have any I guess medical issues starting as maybe a child into like college age? Any kind of thing that jumps out? Did you have like frequent ear infections, strep throat, anything like that?
No.
No.
Pretty healthy.
Okay, awesome. Were you active as a child?
Yeah.
Okay, very nice. What kind of things did you do as a kid?
All sorts of sports.
Sports, okay.
Tons of sports.
Awesome. And then kind of carry that through. I know you said you liked working out, but carry that through into adulthood, or?
Yeah, I tried to play as much as I can. I played college baseball.
Okay.
Then once I stopped that, I just needed to work things out as a replacement.
Okay. Awesome. Perfect. Well, like I said, those things are great. Staying active is great. You mentioned working out. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on, kind of what you do. But physical activity, nutrition is really only a piece of the puzzle. When it comes down to it, your overall health has so much more to do with how nutrition and activity and mental health and kind of your spiritual health as well kind of all fit together and work for you. So it sounds like you have kind of a good grasp on that side of things, which is awesome. Let's see. How about... See, we had some travel outside the U.S. Looks like you went to Fiji. That's really awesome. What else do we have going on here? All right, kind of jumping into your family history a little bit. We'll get there. I noticed you had some history of heart problems, stroke. What else do we have here? Looks like some of the rest of your family is in generally good health, but thyroid cancer in your grandparents. You mentioned that your father has high cholesterol. Could you tell me, is that something he controls with medication? Is it?
I think he does control with medication
okay.
now, but I'm not sure. I think he does.
Okay.
Statins, I believe.
Okay. Is it something he's had for a while? Are your parents, are they active? Do they live a generally kind of healthy lifestyle, do you think? Or do you think
They try to.
Okay.
They're pretty active. I think he's only started taking medication for it in the past couple of years.
Okay.
So not a terribly long time, but I think it was controlled for a long time by food intake, and then
Great.
their diet changed.
Okay. What, I guess, when you say their diet changed, did you kind of eat one way as a child and their diet tended to change when they got a little bit older? Was health kind of a later in life focus for them, or?
Yeah, they kind of got some scares later in life,
Okay.
and then when I was living with them, I helped them kind of clean up their diet.
Okay.
And then once I moved out, they kind of
Fell back into
what they wanted to do.
Okay. That's good to know, because it kind of gives a picture of maybe growing up what your diet was then, and kind of the way that you ate, and a lot of that definitely influences kind of as we get older what we eat then too, what we're like comfortable eating, and the way that we cook and the way that we interact with food and all of that kind of good
Mhm.
stuff. I see here too that you're married and you have one child. Looks like you have a few brothers and sisters too that look like they're in good health. Okay, moving on, kind of moving through these pieces. And like I said, I'm going to ask a bunch of questions. I know you filled out a bunch of paperwork.
That's okay.
But it'll kind of give me a good picture. So, no current medications. I do see that you are on, so you're taking protein powder and it looks like collagen daily. Any specific kind of protein powder that you use?
Usually something non-whey based.
Okay. Just because of the digestive discomfort? Okay. Have you found that something that's not whey kind of has less discomfort for you?
Yeah, usually some sort of egg or beef kind of blend.
Did that come up, I guess kind of bouncing around a little bit, did that come up later in life? Is that something that, being as you have been pretty active and playing sports for a while, is that something that you've experienced like throughout your kind of fitness career, I guess I would say?
I would probably say it was there. I just didn't recognize it
Okay.
as symptoms until I started doing some like dairy elimination.
Okay.
And then I noticed
Okay.
like I would get really like nasally or
Okay.
like bloated after protein shakes.
Okay. So you're experiencing kind of both like GI discomfort as well as kind of some sinus issues too. Okay. Dairy can definitely produce some extra mucus. A lot of people who have dairy sensitivities see that they kind of have some of those same symptoms, whether it's something GI related or they might feel more congested, more kind of just nasally mucousy. So that's not something that's uncommon. And like you said, kind of being able to recognize that and then piece together those little bits is great. That's kind of the first step that we would work on anyway. So kind of eliminated that first step, which is awesome. That's all right. Okay, great. So, and then I see here you're taking a multivitamin and you're already taking the Thorne brand multivitamin, which is awesome. I definitely recommend Thorne. I think they have some really quality products. Plus, I like that they auto ship to you and that they're there. So I don't know if you're signed up for that, which is great.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. It's a lot easier to take when it just shows up at your door.
Great.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So kind of moving on to physical activity. It looks like you're pretty active, doing something almost every day.
Correct.
Okay. What kind of work? I know you have a little bit of everything between cardio, strength training, stretching. What kind of cardio and strength training activity are you doing?
Cardio, running, rowing,
Okay.
biking, a little bit of everything, whatever I can
Great.
get my hands on.
Great.
And then just strength training, your basic strength training.
Okay. Kind of like CrossFit style.
Yeah, mixing some CrossFit,
Okay.
Olympic lifting, stuff like that.
Okay. Great. And how long have you been doing that?
7 years.
Okay, so a while.
Yeah.
Okay, great. How about stretching? I know that you mentioned that you do that weekly. Stretching is great as far as just relaxing and kind of helping those muscles rebuild and rejuvenate and all that kind of good stuff. Do you feel like you stretch pretty often, like you should, or
No.
no? Okay.
Definitely not.
Okay. I know that can be hard to do. So based on how much you are working out, like I said, this is kind of a holistic approach to health in general. It's not just nutrition, it's a little bit of everything. I would definitely encourage you to try and stretch and roll out as much as you can. I know it's easier said than done. At the gym sometimes we all preach stretching and rolling and we don't do it ourselves. I would definitely encourage you to go ahead and do that. But like you said, you are very active and the more that you can kind of help those muscles rebuild, the better. Okay, so moving on. So you're typically in bed around 10:30, which is great, and you said you fall asleep around 10:45. Looks like you've got about 7 hours of sleep per night, which isn't terrible.
Yeah.
Obviously we'd love for everybody to shoot for 8 to 9, 8 and above. That's awesome. But 7 hours of sleep per night is great. It looks like too, you said you're waking up once or twice during the night. All right. A lot of times you said because of your son. but that you do feel rested upon rising. So as far as sleep is concerned, you said you go to bed at 10:30, you fall asleep at 10:45. Do you have a hard time falling asleep, or do you find that you can fall asleep pretty easily?
Not normally.
Okay.
Pretty easy once I get into bed.
Awesome. Do you, when you said you wake up during the night, do you have a hard time falling back to sleep at that point? Like if you go, when you kind of get back into bed and go back to sleep, or do you kind of stare up at the ceiling?
Not normally.
Okay.
It's a couple minutes here and there when the kid wakes up. And normally it's right back to bed. So
that'll do it. The little ones are tough. Okay, great. Going through your lifestyle, it looked like, you've got a lot of good stuff going on. I love seeing that you floss your teeth. That's always a challenging one for everybody. But dental health is great. So it's important to kind of everything that we've got going on. So much of our digestion, everything starts in our mouth, and, it kind of takes the brunt a lot of times. So keeping our mouths clean is important. Okay, moving on to a part that kind of, I think, gets overlooked a lot of times in just traditional medicine and, current modern medicine, is the effects that stress can obviously play on our health. So you said that work is about a 6 out of 10 on your stress level, but that, at this point, you just left work.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably a stress that we would eliminate. How about social and family situation? You said that's a 7. Why would you kind of put that at a 7 out of 10?
I'm just trying to have to deal with having a newborn, and everyone wants to see him, and trying to spend time with the family, and just all that kind of stuff.
Okay. All right. Current health status, you said an 8 out of 10. So that's, generally kind of high. What do you think stresses you out most about your health?
Just trying to be healthy sometimes.
Yeah.
Like worrying about what you're eating and going out with friends and stuff like that.
Okay. Do you find it hard to kind of socialize and go out with friends and continue to choose healthy meals?
Not usually.
Okay.
Sometimes, but for the most part, not really.
Okay. That's good. And life in general, you said a 6 out of 10. I mean, that's kind of average in the middle. Is there anything that you feel like you're doing right now to help control your stress, or kind of help alleviate some of that stress?
Work out.
Okay, that's great. You mentioned that you feel like your current state of health is kind of largely within your control, and working out is something that you can definitely do to kind of improve that health status, which is wonderful. And kind of taking those steps, like you mentioned, of working out and kind of identifying those things that kind of trigger your sensitivities, it sounds like can definitely kind of help make you feel better. So that's a big part of controlling your stress. So that's good. Let's see. So you definitely have had a lot going on in the past couple of years. Had a big move from the East Coast down to Texas, which is where you're originally from, correct? Awesome. Opened your own business in 2013 in the gym. Got married. First child was born, and I know that he has had some health complications. So that's definitely, I know, been a pretty stressful experience, especially with him being hospitalized for a little bit. And then you left your job to pursue nursing school. So it's a lot of changes in kind of a short amount of time. And that can put a lot of stress on your system in general. So things like digestive health are so directly connected to our stress level. So while there's definitely some things that we can do as far as identifying those foods that trigger your stress or your digestive discomfort, controlling your stress response is big too, because we can have the most perfect diet in the entire world, but if we're stressed all the time, then it's just kind of fighting a losing battle. They call it your gut, your second brain, because you have so much going on in your gut that helps regulate kind of the rest of your body, and so many hormones, hormones kind of floating around in there, and you just really want to make sure that you're looking at yourself as a whole picture. So, working out to control stress is a wonderful thing to do, and you can always look at incorporating in things like meditation and mindfulness, and even if it's just 10 minutes a day, kind of shutting your brain off and relaxing a little bit, that can definitely help. grabbing a foam roller and rolling out for 10 minutes and, relaxing when you do that. It's kind of a good place to start. Okay, great. So we kind of went through some of the basics. Two of the big parts that we have on here is what we call the metabolic screening questionnaire and the kind of symptom questionnaire, which is the next piece. So what I wanted to do was kind of go through each of those and see where you might have some pieces that jumped out. And I took a look before we sat down, and obviously your digestive tract was kind of one during that metabolic screening questionnaire that we've already talked about a little bit. And then it looks like let's see, for the most part, everything else was kind of, between a 1 and a 2, nothing major that jumped out as far as frequency. You did mention that you do have some stiffness or some aches and pains. Would you say that that's associated with exercise?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of after you work out.
Yeah, and just not taking care of recovery pieces.
Exactly. Yeah. So kind of like we talked about, the recovery can help with that for sure. And then let's see. All right. Okay. I mean, everything else, like I said, is kind of is pretty basic. And I know we talked a little bit about digestive tract, and it looks like you're kind of all over the place as far as symptoms. And would you say you experience more of one symptom with one type of food than another, or just
no,
kind of all
not
over
really.
the
It's
place?
kind of all over the place.
Okay. How soon after you consume like certain food do you feel like you have symptoms? So like if you had dairy, kind of how soon after consuming dairy do you feel like you have an onset of whatever the symptoms are?
I think it depends on what and how much.
Okay.
It could be almost frequent, like almost immediately up to, a day later.
Okay.
So I think it depends on what it is and how much it is.
Okay. Okay. All right, getting back to it, and I know that you've got the little one, and it sounds like he just woke up early from his nap, so no worries if you need to grab him. Just hop away, and we'll finish up whenever you can.
Okay.
So, no big deal. Okay, so we had kind of gone through and saying that, that symptom questionnaire, your digestive health, like we had talked about, was kind of the big one that popped out. And then going through your symptom questionnaire, the next piece, again, there was some digestive information that had popped out as well. But I wanted to go through a few questions too. Let's see. You mentioned you have some issues with fatty foods. Do you ever have any pain between your shoulder blades related to eating fatty foods? Have you ever noticed?
Not that I've noticed or associated.
Great. Okay, so one of the things related to your gallbladder is sometimes people who have problems with fatty foods have issues with their gallbladder, and one of the ways that you can kind of start to identify that is through feelings of pain in your between your shoulder blades. So it's great that you don't, but it's always something to kind of keep in mind. Let's see, what else are we looking at here? We talked about a little bit about your food sensitivities, and let's see. You mentioned here that you rarely get sick. That's great. Do you? You mentioned you didn't really get sick as a child either. Looking over your information and kind of everything that you provided to me, you're doing a lot of really great things.
Good.
You're eating well, you're exercising. We'll kind of go over your diet journal in a minute. So the great part is that you're doing a lot of really good things. The tough part now is that you've kind of fallen into this, what's next, how to make things even better from there. So there's a lot of, little tweaks that can be made, and that's where a lot of that personalized nutrition side of things comes in. So, it's a good and it's a challenge for sure, but it's a good challenge. Okay, what else do we have here? Let's see. So you mentioned that kind of once you start eating sweets or carbohydrates, you feel like you can't stop. Can you give me a little bit more information on that? Kind of explain that feeling a little bit more.
I think when I kind of overhauled my diet a couple of years ago, took away sweets for so long. Now that I like eat them, I still eat them rarely. But if there's a lot of them around, I will just keep eating them until I don't feel good. Sometimes, but it's not often. But if it's something really good and it's worth eating, I'll eat till I don't want to eat anymore.
Okay. That's, moderation is always a tough thing, and it's a word that I kind of struggle with in general, kind of across the board. I think it gets overused. But sometimes, one of the things that we're looking at in this section, which you don't have a lot of other, what I would consider yeses in that section, but one of the things that we're looking at there is your blood sugar and your insulin control. So, are you kind of producing insulin correctly for when your body starts eating, and that can kind of be what you might consider a symptom, but again, it's kind of the only one that you have going on in here, and to me, where that might fall in a little bit more is kind of in that mindful eating side of things, as opposed to maybe the insulin control. So I can definitely give you a lot of information on kind of mindfulness and eating to enjoy your food and not feeling like you have to finish everything that's there. Because that's something that a lot of people struggle with, and it doesn't mean, I think a lot of times people think that like mindful eating or eating healthy means that they can never eat what they enjoy. There's plenty of space in your nutrition to eat things because you just like eating them. It's just figuring out the frequency and why you're eating what you're eating. All right, getting back to kind of the symptoms questions, the one area that I did see kind of that popped out to me was you mentioned that you often heat food in plastic containers in the microwave, and you live kind of in a large urban area. I know that you're in Texas, kind of right outside Houston. You said your computer, I guess, did for work more than 3 hours a day, have a negative reaction when you consume foods containing MSG. What this section is kind of looking at is toxicity from kind of different things like heavy metals and different kind of material that we encounter a lot on a daily basis. One of the big ones that a lot of people don't think about is if you used to have mercury fillings. So a lot of people have mercury fillings, and there's just been a lot of research coming out kind of about heavy metal toxicity and kind of ways that it can disrupt your body as far as things like hormone regulation is concerned. So it's always kind of an interesting piece, and there's little things that you can do to kind of change up some of this and kind of, put yourself in maybe an even better spot than you currently are. I know you mentioned you don't use aluminum cooking equipment, which is great. One of the big things that we often recommend is things like switching to different types of cooking equipment, whether it be like cast iron or something along those lines. You mentioned sitting at your computer for 3 times a day, 3 or more hours a day, getting up every few hours, walking around, whether it be setting a timer or something like that. You're already so active, which is wonderful. But making sure that during the day you're not kind of negating what you're doing when you are active, that's huge. So, like I said, a lot of what you have going on here is really good. It's kind of what we're like trying to move clients to get to. So, kudos on kind of how well you're doing there. So going through your nutrition frequency, I see you mentioned that you have about 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day. Obviously caffeine is, a little bit of caffeine is not a terrible thing. But you want to make sure kind of that you're, I don't want to say that you're not using coffee maybe to mask something else that's going on. If you're not able to get up in the morning without having a cup of coffee, or if you're kind of just drinking it out of habit and not kind of out of enjoyment, it's something to look at and kind of mindfully think of maybe why you're having that caffeine. I'd also recommend looking at when you're drinking your coffee. So kind of right now, you said 2 to 3 cups a day. When are you having those?
Usually in the morning. I may have one that's like, but in the afternoon, but usually not after 2. Okay,
so it was going to be what I said. Think about kind of in that afternoon time, if you're drinking it later, how it might affect your sleep cycle. So that's good that you're kind of already aware of that. Looks like you've got some really great intake of lean meats, eggs. You said you're eating fish or shellfish 1 to 2 times a month. I would definitely encourage you to even up that intake, maybe once or twice a week. Fish, the fatty acids that you're going to get from fish are great. You can always supplement with a fish oil too, but if you can get those from your foods, that's awesome. Let's see, nuts and seeds. Looks like you're eating a lot of, got about 2 servings of fruit and 3 to 4 servings of vegetables, which is awesome. I would encourage you to get even more. So bumping your fruit intake up to, up to 5 and even up to 8 to 10 for your vegetables. One place a lot of people, let's look here. One place a lot of people tend to forget about vegetables is breakfast. And I know that there's, you mentioned some really great breakfasts that you're having here, as well as, some great lunches and dinners too. But adding in things like greens with breakfast, or kale, sauteing up some greens or whatever, it's kind of an easy way to get those at kind of extra few servings of veggies in. And one other thing too, as far as vegetables, is making sure that you're eating kind of a broad spectrum. So let's say eat the rainbow. Start out, there's every different color you can think of, try to fill that in during the day. And one of the pieces of, education material that I can definitely send you is, we can pop that off if you want to. Is called the phytonutrient spectrum. So it'll give you kind of all the different fruits and vegetables that fall into the different color categories and kind of what each of those categories are known to be beneficial for and all that kind of good stuff. Okay, so went through your diet journal. It looks like you're eating well. You're getting in, like I said, you're eating well. You're getting in enough water during the day. I ran your needs as far as your calories and what you provided me, which is great. Thank you so much for providing the calories. And you're kind of hitting those needs, which is really good. With your activity level, you definitely want to make sure that you're getting there. And I see too that, we're having, let's see, almond milk. You're having your protein powder, shakes as a snack. Whereas, are you doing those post-workout?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
In the afternoon.
Okay, awesome. Ideally we would get all of our calories from our food, but when you have kind of an increased caloric need, sometimes you do have to kind of go to that protein, those supplements.
Let's do the damn thing.
Okay, awesome. So, just kind of finishing up, with your food journal. Like I said, we'd love to have everything brought in through our food intake, but sometimes that's just not realistic. So when you're needing kind of the increased calories that you're looking for in order to support that active lifestyle, getting them through a quality protein and a quality protein powder is a really great option. Let's see. Yeah, we talked about kind of those things in your diet that kind of trigger your digestive symptoms. It looks like you've really started pulling those out. So that's awesome. Okay, so the last but not least piece before we kind of wrap up and I ask if you have any questions, all that kind of good stuff, is our nutrition focused physical exam. And what this does is look at kind of your body to see if there's anything that stands out that could point to a nutrient deficiency. You're doing a great job taking a multivitamin, you're doing a great job getting in a decent number of fruits and vegetables as far as servings, but we want to make sure that you're getting everything that you need and also that your body can utilize what it's getting. It doesn't do you any good if you aren't able to use what you're taking in. So what I like to do is kind of go through our nutrition focused physical exam. I know we did your measurements before we got started, but kind of just going by body system. As far as your hair, do you find it to be thin or thick? Do you think it's brittle, dry, oily? Kind of any issues that you've seen with your hair? No?
No.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, oily if I don't wash it for a couple days.
Okay, but other than that, pretty good. Okay, great. How about your scalp? Itchy, flaky, dry?
Probably flaky.
Flaky, okay. How about your skin, the skin on your face? Do you have any issues with scaly skin, red, any acne?
Not excessive.
Okay.
Or anything.
Have you had any symptoms? So you said with dairy, you get kind of mucousy. Do you have any skin symptoms? That
Maybe some flushing.
Okay.
Like cheeks.
Okay.
Area, but it depends. Again, it depends on what it is.
Okay. How about gluten?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. How about your tongue? Any film on your tongue?
Not that I would recognize.
Okay. How about your teeth? Any cavities?
No.
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 Okay.
I had one small one filled recently, but.
Great. As a kid, did you have a lot of cavities?
Yes.
You did. Okay.
Tons.
The fillings that you have, I'm assuming, were not mercury, based on your age. But do you know by any chance if you had mercury fillings?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think they were silver.
They were silver.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, all right. We can look into it and get a little bit more info to see. Based on your age, we kind of fall into that like gray area where they were still. Some people are still using them. Some people may not be. So it's kind of good to know. How about your gums? Do they bleed when you brush? Do you find them sore or tender or anything like that?
No, but only if I haven't flossed in a couple of days. But I try to
Okay.
do it pretty regularly, so
Okay.
it's usually pretty minimal.
Good. Okay. How about the skin on your body? Red, scaly, dry?
Tends to be dry,
Okay.
but it also correlates to the weather.
To the weather?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you get drier skin when it's cold out or?
Usually the opposite. I get
Really?
drier skin when it's hotter outside.
Okay.
Like chest and like upper back.
Okay. That's good to know. I know Houston can be really humid, so it's kind of always fighting some issues with skin, I'm sure. Okay. And then how about any like bumps on your skin? Any like, call it like chicken skin, but it kind of stays there for a little while?
No, not really.
No? Okay. And then how about your nails? Can you stick your hands out? Okay. Do they crack easily, brittle, dry, any of those things?
No.
Okay. Well, that's good. All those things are good to know because, like you said, strong nails, healthy gums, all that kind of stuff points to good nutrient intake and good nutrient usage, and it's kind of good for us to use as a gauge. We talked a little bit before too. You're someone who has started to kind of really tailor in a lot on your food intake and kind of your exercise and all that kind of good stuff. And in my opinion, if I were a clinician, you're kind of starting to fall into that category where I would do some very like specific nutrient testing on you to see and make sure that you were getting enough micronutrients in to support your physical activity, and making sure that your recovery is tailored and we're timing your meals correctly and you're timing like your pre-workout and your post-workout and all that kind of good stuff, so that you can kind of optimize the work that you're doing. I think, like we said, recovery is kind of your missing piece right now a little bit, and focusing on that is definitely big. But other than that, kind of starting to tailor into some of your specific nutrient intake would potentially be kind of that step that I would recommend if this were a real setting. Okay, so let me just go over one more time, make sure that there's nothing here. I think we kind of covered everything. Do you have any questions for me as far as kind of what the next steps are?
I guess just what kind of, other information you think would be helpful, or?
Yeah, for sure. So what I'm going to do is put together kind of what my recommendations would be, and share that with my one of my professors. We'll go over kind of what I'm thinking, and then from there, based on their recommendations and kind of what I came up with, what I'll do is send you some educational information about, like we talked about, maybe some things like meal timing, certain foods and supplements that are good for strength training and some of the endurance training that you're doing. And then my suggestion to you would be to take that, and if you're still interested in kind of a little bit more in depth, maybe reaching out in your area to a nutritionist that might be willing to work with you, or that you might like to work with. Or there are plenty of programs online as well that do things like meal plans, meal timing, and all that kind of good stuff. So,
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
That's it.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I know it's kind of tough bouncing between a little one and helping out, but I appreciate you helping me. And
That was good information.
good. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Awesome.